Hi, everybody.
Hello. I see we're all getting brought in.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Hello.
Well, thank you.
How are you? How are you with all of you?
Very well.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Saja.
Hi, good
Yeah, hello.
everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us and accepting my invitation to share in our conference. It was very good opening. I hope you enjoyed, or if you attend, or you can see the opening on Facebook or YouTube. We had Professor Daya Reddy and several GYA members. Yeah.
That's good. We've got one more panelist to join us.
Yeah.
How many people are you expecting to attend?
Yeah. Many people, yes.
30, I see.
Anyway, we have a live stream on Facebook. In Facebook, thousands can show the session. Social media is much better than Zoom, but we have to go in Zoom to go to the social media. So that several people, thousands, don't worry.
Okay.
We have several followers on Facebook.
You can count them, you can measure the Facebook followers?
Yes, likes, with likes and following. Because you know that I deal with the youth, that's why I behave in this way. I deal with social media because they contact the social media usually.
Sure. Well, let us
can
know it.
Calculate followers.
Be nice if you could let us
You
know
have
at
to
the
think
end how
about-
many people were watching. That would be great.
I see
Okay.
Ganya's online.
Okay.
Okay, yes. Hello,
I will
Ganya.
tell you later how many people. I will tell you.
Okay, great.
We have 10,000 followers on our Facebook page.
Okay, I think we have everybody to hear. You just tell us when we should start and we'll go. I still see 1 minute still to 1 o'clock.
It's 1 minute left. I will ask the IT when the live stream is ready, and they will tell you.
Okay.
Can you see Ganya, Peter?
I have speaker view, but she's around. I see her in the chat. She's got some slides. Is that right? It's no problem, Ganya. You can show slides. I hope we can share your screen at the right time. Maybe you can check just now very quickly if you can do it or not.
It seems Ganya might be an attendee and not a panelist. I don't see Ganya on the panelists list.
She can show herself. Just mention a message or something like that to be a panelist.
Ganya, can you hear us? Can try to do that, I think.
Yes. How? She couldn't join.
She's in the chat, but
yeah, she is in the chat.
I mean, the IT host should be able to promote Ganya, right, with a button.
Yeah, okay.
That.
Yes. Dr. Ahmed or Shihan, please let Ganya in. Hello to all of you. This is Ganya.
Suhad Yassin is one of your colleagues, Amal, who's the technical people. I can see you're trying.
My colleagues from IT from University of Duhok, Professor Ahmed Khalil, he is a professor in IT, and Dr. Shaheen, professor also in IT, so that they are professional.
Okay, so I see the name Dr. Suhad Yassin there, it's right on the screen.
Suhad Yassin is a co-chair. He's a co-chair for the conference, the local organizing committee.
Okay.
He's a co-chair, but she is attending the session as well.
Okay, very good.
She's from Kurdistan originally. She's our main partner originally.
I see Ganya says she cannot see the video to share and join.
I don't know what's the problem.
Did she joined as a regular participant and not as a panelist, maybe on the wrong link?
Did she get the email, the reminder email was with the link to Zoom?
Yeah, she told me that everything is okay. Also, we have here Iqbal. Do you know Iqbal, Dr. Peter? Iqbal Dukan from Yemen.
Yes, we know her. She's
Yeah.
not on the panel, of course, but we know her very well.
Yeah. I think Ganya has problem, not ours, because all panelists here and everything is okay. And even she didn't reply on Sajid.
It's strange that she's present in the chat, but can't get promoted to a panelist.
Yeah, I think she has problem. Dr. Ganya, if you have problem, please write it down in the chat to start, because it's 2-5.
Maybe even check, exit and come back in with the link that you received 1 hour ago.
At least, yes. At least.
Is it not possible for the host to right-click on her name and promote to panelist? Oh.
Look, she is inside, so that it's not the problem of IT. It's her problem.
Hello, we have you.
Yeah, great. How are you all?
Yeah,
Good,
hello.
we're happy you're here.
Hello.
Okay, I will leave you to your nice session. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Amal.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Amal, and welcome everybody. Apologies for a little delay in starting this session. I hope it won't impact on what we have to say too much. Just a couple of technical issues we had to clear up. So we're going to talk for the next hour and a quarter or so on science for humanity, and especially the gender dimension of refugee and displaced scientists. My name is Peter Mcgrath. I'm the coordinator of IAP, the Inter-Academy Partnership, based in Trieste in Italy. IAP is one of 3 organizations participating in an international project exactly on this issue of refugee and displaced scientists. The others are TWAS, and we have my colleague Sena Galazzi, who's going to explain much more about the whole project. She's representing TWAS here. And then, of course, ISC, the International Science Council. And You heard introductory remarks maybe from Daya Reddy, the president of ISC, earlier this morning. Amongst the organizers of this particular panel are also Roseanne Dia. Roseanne is co-moderating with me. She's the director of Gender Insight, which is again a project focused on gender in science and technology. She will tell you a little bit more about that maybe. She's a council member of TWAS and has hosted the TWAS Gender Advisory Panel. She's Professor Emeritus at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. And she was also the Executive Officer of the Academy of Sciences of South Africa until she retired, and that's when she got involved in Gender Insight. Saina, I already mentioned, is representing TWAS, where she worked with me on the Refugee and Displaced Scientists project, as well as science diplomacy activities and others within TWAS. Saina herself, before joining TWAS, she worked extensively in Southeast Asia in areas of migration and human rights. And like I said, she'll give an overview of the project that we're working on. And then we have two special guests. We have Dr. Saja Al-Zubi from Syria and Dr. Kanya Al-Nakeb from Yemen. I won't give too much away about their backgrounds because I'm sure they're ready to tell you a little bit about their personal stories. Just to say that Saja is an economist currently located in Glasgow in Scotland. Her studies focus on gender, rural development, and women's issues, especially linked with forced migration. Ganya, meanwhile, is also no longer in Yemen, but she still holds an associate professorship in nutritional science at the University of Sana'a, and is currently in the north of Italy, not far from where Saina and I are at the moment, at the University of Trento. With that, Roseanne, unless you have a couple of words, I will hand over to Saina to give an introduction of the Refugee and Displaced Scientists project.
Thanks, Peter. Nothing really to add except to say that Gender Insight is really very happy to be hosting this session together with IAP and ISC and TWAS, and to bring a gender dimension to bear on this very critical issue. So back to you, and then you can carry on facilitating. Thank you.
Okay, Saina, the screen, the microphone are yours.
Thank you, Peter. First of all, just a notice to the hosts. It says that screen sharing is disabled by the host. So it seems like I will not be able to share the PowerPoint unless that's a technical glitch. But so if you are able to reset this setting, please let me know. I have a pretty PowerPoint ready. Otherwise, I think I will just get started. Yeah, nothing to the contrary being said by the hosts, so I will just get going. All right, so I will just spend the next 10 minutes or so going into a little bit more detail as to this project that we've recently initiated, and giving a little bit of background as to why we are working on this. So this is a relatively recent initiative. We started this in mid-2020, although it builds on previous history of the organizations involved. We are working in this initiative as part of the Science International, which is a series of regular meetings that convene my organization, so UNESCO TWAS, the IAP, and the ISC together. So together, these three organizations represent more than 250 national science academies, scientific unions, and other organizations as well. So we have a very good reach, we hope. So my second slide, which I'm not able to show you now, apparently, had some faces of some refugee scientists, because my first question to the audience today would have been, when I say the words refugee scientists or displaced scientists, who comes to mind? And I think that in many cases, people might think, maybe Sigmund Freud, Albert Einstein, Karl Popper, you know, sort of classics that we've seen and we've read about. Exactly. So someone is posting, I think they're saying Malala. Yes. So I had another couple of photos there that you can't see. One of them would have been Dr. Nawal Al-Sadawi. Another one was Professor Al-Mudaris. And I wanted to start with these examples because, for example, Professor Al-Mudaris, you know, when he fled Iraq, he arrived in Australia and he was locked up in a detention center for almost a year. And he was stripped of his human identity. He had a number on his arm. And, you know, the first job he got after being released after almost 1 year in detention was toilet cleaning. So nothing to do with science there. And, you know, who knows what might have happened had he not received the right support. But of course, he did receive it. He was lucky enough in that. And he's now a worldwide pioneer in orthopedic surgery. I think many of you will have heard of him. He's developed a new generation of implants in orthopedics. He's met Prince Harry. I mean, he's, you know, and that's just because he had the right chance. But of course, many other refugee and displaced scientists are not that lucky. So I think that, you know, if we try to name a few, we might struggle. But of course, there's many out there that need this support, particularly now. You know, I was going to show you some data on screen, but mostly, you know, I was going to make the point that there's about 80 million displaced people, forcibly displaced people right now. This is UNHCR data. So of course, oh, I think somebody is writing in the chat. They're saying that they might have fixed something with sharing. Let's see. Oh, yes. Okay, they've enabled it. Great. Thank you. Okay. So, okay, let me share this. Okay. So this, I'll skip through obviously because we've already discussed a few things here. So this is what I was just telling you about now, which is the global numbers, right? So in all those 80 million people, actually, the majority come from 5 countries, which you see listed on the right here. And on one side, we have countries such as Syria, for example, but also, you know, previously Iraq, which once had very well-established science systems. But these were largely dismantled by conflict and violence. Yet others, so if you look at the bottom there, for example, South Sudan, Myanmar, you know, they come from some of the world's most poorly funded science systems. And for us, you know, the reason why we started this initiative is because we're concerned that it's not just a question of brain drain, you know, brain drain versus brain gain. It's actually a question that in forced migration, many displaced scientists are actually not able to continue building their careers at all. And this means that their contributions to science may be completely lost. And this, you know, today we'll be speaking about this, is especially true for women because already in all cases of hardship, you know, gender dynamics are very often exacerbated. So post-flight and post-conflict, this becomes even worse. And this is where our project comes in. So the first thing we did last year in order to start was carrying out a desk review. So we had a look at what kind of challenges and gaps in opportunities existed out there because we wanted to make this initiative as evidence-based as was possible. And the second thing we did is come up with this strategic framework that you see on screen. And obviously this is just the cover. I won't be showing you the entire document, don't worry. And this is really where we flesh out the vision and the mission of this organization. And our idea is really to support the development of a more globally cohesive initiative, because of course there are programs out there that support refugee scientists. There's a number of initiatives that are amazing, quite frankly, but there's too few of them. And the ones that exist even are not always entirely coordinated with one another. And the support that exists is also quite short-term in many cases. So what we did is, based on this desk review and on the findings of our strategic framework development, we set up a workshop in October where we brought in a series of stakeholders. So this included potential partners, organizations already active in this field. So for example, UNHCR, the Scholars Rescue Fund, etc., many more. But the first thing we did actually there was listen. So we had a number of refugee and displaced scientists who explained, you know, what they had gone through. And then we also listened to these organizations that are already working on the ground. So that was really a reflective workshop, whereas we're actually getting ready for the second workshop, which will happen on the 30th of March and the 1st of April in 2 separate days. And there we're going to launch the initiative. And actually, I'll take this chance to, if there's anyone listening now and you feel that, this is something that you're very interested in or your organization is, please drop us a line. We'll be giving you our contacts later on. So we're really at the beginning of this project. This is the pre-launch phase that we're in right now. So we've been busy developing the core documents and the core guidance for this project going forward. So that's things like developing an advocacy strategy, a communications plan. So we've developed a small website now. And we've also been developing a refugee and displaced scientists podcast series, which we hope will play a significant role in our communications work. And this is some of the things that we hope to do by the end of the year. So at present, we have been busy with working groups. So we've tried to involve as many diverse participants as possible. So, so far we've involved 57 people in these working groups from countries around the world. And the first group has been focused on developing a strategic framework and actually building the network. The second one has been involved in engaging refugee and displaced scientists. And by this, we mean engaging them throughout the initiative. So not just in an ad hoc group, but making sure that their priorities are actually what is leading our initiative. Then there's been a group on communication and advocacy, which is getting busier and busier by the day. And then there's been a regional outreach and mapping group that has also been meeting, and they've been trying to look at how we can ensure that our initiative has a really good outreach globally, so regionally, but also in terms of engaging women in all the needed places. So just to give you a small glimpse, this is the kind of organizations that we've been interacting with. So if they're listed here, it means that they've either come to the workshop or they've participated in working groups or often both. So our next steps now are to move into the launch phase of our initiative, which is basically when we go public. So, excuse me. The registrations are now open for our launch workshop at the end of this month. And this will be key in launching our initiative and displaying it to the public. We will be putting in place a governance structure that we've been working on so far, and we'll also work towards public endorsements of a declaration that we've been working on as well. A major project for us will be developing a data portal on our website, which so far is relatively small, so building that. And later on, also building, publishing the podcasts. So you should expect to see them on air, maybe sometimes in the summertime. The second part of our year will be focused on, building on everything that we've done in the first part, plus planning for the future. Because of course, we're in it for the long run. We know that forced migration is not likely to go away anytime soon. Unfortunately, and quite the contrary, all global trends point to the opposite happening. So the proportion of the world's population who is displaced right now is actually 1%. So 1% of the world's population is currently displaced outside of their home. And that is a scary statistic. Of course, one example is shown on the screen. Another one is sadly in the news this week with a violent repression in Myanmar, pointing towards a likely increased forced displacement in the coming months. And I think it is worth noting here from the perspective of our project that there's been a pretty important shift in the last decade in global trends on forced migration. So there's been more and more people who have sought refuge, but also those who have sought refuge have had fewer options to rebuild their lives. So statistically, there's fewer people who are able to quickly or relatively quickly return to their home countries. So for an increasing number of displaced people, this means being stuck in a long-term protracted displacement scenario. And of course, among these are many displaced scientists. So that's why we have started this initiative. We are worried that the existing support systems that exist for refugee scientists are too few. And we are really talking about the risk of a monumental loss of intellectual capital here. which is what we are hoping to contribute to tackle. I think some of you might know that this year is also the 70th anniversary of the 1951 Refugee Convention. And it's clear that this legal instrument, as well as the others that we rely on, are, they have never been more relevant probably. But at the same time, I think that we can agree that legal instruments alone cannot provide an adequate safety net, neither for the scholars who are displaced, nor for their scientific achievements, because these are both at risk. So we are hoping to play our small part in this with our project. And on this note, I will stop here because I think I'm just over my time. And I'd like to invite, again, people to get in touch. I've displayed on screen the email of our project account that you can get in touch with, or you're also welcome to email me or my colleague Peter, who is online with us. And thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Saina. And at this point, I can start to invite questions, if you have any, to put them in the chat. And we'll try and collate those, and Roseanne will come back after the next two speakers and moderate a discussion session. But please feel free to start putting questions in the chat. Maybe I just take a second to say a little bit why this project is going under the name, at least so far, of Refugee and Displaced Scientists. It's to be sort of quite inclusive. I mean, refugee is obviously a very precise legal definition. And there are legal structures in place for helping those people, although there is nothing specific in those legal structures for scientists, of course. Whereas displaced can be, usually what we mean is displaced because of war or civil uprisings and so on, people that are forced to leave their homes. But of course, those people may or may not sign up for refugee status, and there are pros and cons to doing that. But they still have difficulties, finding suitable positions in academia and elsewhere. And I think our next two speakers fall into that category. With that, I'll hand the floor to Saja, if you're ready to give us your intervention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to be hosted by this lovely forum and with lovely panelists and organizers. Thank you all. So, as Peter just mentioned, so I'm Saja Al-Zabi, I'm Syrian development economist, and my research has been focusing on rural development with more focus on gender. But since the war broke out in Syria, my focus has been researching the ways to enhance the livelihoods and food security of Syrian refugees and Syrian displaced, who are these families who are affected by this war inside Syria and outside Syria, and just to help them to find the opportunities or generating income activities to help them to survive in these harsh conditions. So, so today, as all know, the importance of immigrants' contribution to the host countries and to their host communities. So in particular, high educated immigrants. So it's vital matter that to talk about the value or the importance of displaced and refugee scientists, that they can add to their host countries or to their host communities, and taking into account the gender dimensions. So today I'm gonna tackle briefly three main issues in this domain based on myself and husband experiences as Syrian and displaced scientists and many scholars and scientists who I know or I met. So first I will talk about scientists in the context of gender and displacement. So here I will highlight briefly some issues about scientists who are at home, in home country, and about scientists in exile. Then I'll talk to complete this issue. I will go through being a scientist and mother in exile, and finally I will tackle the issues of organizations, institutions, policies and politics, and the decision and policy makers, how they affect or support displaced and refugee scientists. So first of all, if we want to go to the scientists in the context of gender and displacement, here I mean the challenges and the advantages that they can achieve, or they can, let me say, they can seek to survive. So scientists at wartime at home country, we can't ignore the situation that they live, how they can survive or how they can contribute to the science in their country who is collapsed by war and conflict. So that it's to contribute rigorous as research is very complicated issues. So there's a lack of safety and security, there's a lack of capabilities and facilities, the political institutions and environment is still there in that countries. As I'm talking about, let's talk about Middle East countries, including Syria as well, of course. So it's still there through the male migration. Although this male migration, there's a bright side of male migration, that it opens the board for women. So many women can get high profile positions after this male migration. In addition, there are many challenges in the home country that international collaboration came to halt during the conflict. I'm talking from my experience in Syria. So many development projects just paused, no collaboration between universities, international universities, conferences, workshops, etc. So, and although also there's another challenge which is very important, the sanctions. Sanctions, for example, sanctions against Syria, actually it affects directly Syrian scientists. I'm talking from my personal experience. It really affects me badly. So I have been awarded by such awards from USA, and I have been awarded by a fellowship, postdoc fellowship, but due to the sanctions against Syrians, so actually I'm banned. I get banned from this to get these opportunities and get updated with the new, keep updated with the new scientific achievements, just because I'm a Syrian. So this is briefly about scientists in the home country, but what about scientists in exile? So beyond the new culture, language, environment, I'm sure that many scientists will talk about this, and you'll know more about this, many things about this. So it's totally stranger environment for these scholars. So beyond these challenges, for scientists who have no but scientific capital in exile, so the main capital that they have, that their science, their knowledge, their skills, the main challenge here is to get engaged or to engage to the scientific environment. They have real challenges in this domain. Although they have good knowledge and skills, but for different barriers, including the host country policies, they can't find the opportunity in academia or research centers. Meanwhile, for people who can get engaged to this scientific environment, although of the barriers, scientists in exile find the chance to adapt to the new environment through building capacities and methodologies, and sometimes coping to new discipline. For me, I use my experience as displaced scientist to enhance my research and studies about affected refugees and displaced people. And I went through forced migration studies to match the theory with the operation studies. So I'm teaching now, I'm still teaching in forced migration and gender studies in Oxford University in the UK, and it's easy for me now to match the theory with the practical experiences and how I can give make the operation studies about this theory issues. So as a complement for this issue, I will focus on being a female scientist and mother in exile. So for who are not involved in science, these scientists who are mothers and scientists, these female scientists and mothers, they face complicated dilemmas and barriers to survive, especially if they head their family. But for who involved already into scientific scheme, in a fully foreign environment, it's really hard to balance between motherhood and work. These women should be appreciated and supported for the value work they do. However, they find many challenges, many barriers to go through their work, to go through their achievements, to contribute research. I think here I have to highlight some issues, some tricks, just to not tricks. Let's see, it's technique for women, for displaced women, and to be aware of this environment and how they can survive in exile. So they should know the rights and the duties they should do. That should be clear from the beginning. From the first stage, they get involved in this institution or in this scientific body. So they should get proper maternity leave. For example, for me, I couldn't get a proper maternity leave because of visa issues and other barriers, while my other colleague gets 1 year maternity leave. I have got less than 3 months. It's actually the 3 months. If I say 3 months, I would be so generous with myself. So it was less than 3 months, and it wasn't easy for me at all. At the same time, these people should get proper work space, and they need psychology support. So all people know that after delivery or give birth, women need to be a special treatment just to enjoy her maternity leave, and in case they didn't get their maternity leave, they should be supported physically or psychology, and they should ask for these scientists. At the same time, they should be aware of the protection concept, especially of harassment. So it's any kind of harassment. They should be aware of this. The idea that I wanted to raise here, that scientists, female scientists and who are displaced or who are refugees, they should be self-confident to ask for their duties as a human being. So we can't say that we are displaced, so just okay, I can't ask for my right, or I can't ask for what I have to get. So I should be aware of my rights, and at the same time, I should be aware of my duties. So just to be clear from the beginning, so I will be more comfortable and achieve more work successfully. And of course, the main thing for scientists, displaced scientists, and for refugee scientists, for female or male scientists, for the first stage in the host country, they should be monitored by a relative. monitored, at least for the first stage, just to be aware of the scientific environment, the new methodologies, because for sure it would be some challenges, some different, it would be different methods, different methodologies. So they should be monitored by a relative monitor, and they should get the facilities and fund to contribute to the scientific environment and to achieve their mission successfully. So actually these issues are really correlated with the concept of culture of displaced or refugee scientists. Here, when we are talking about displaced scientists or refugee scientists, we don't talk about people who are less educated or less qualified than others. We are talking about people who are really qualified. They have rich skills, they have knowledge and many experiences, but they have barriers to express themselves. They have barriers to get the board, to be on the board. So they just need facilities to be there. For that, this is the final issue that I wanna mention. Here is the role of organizations, institutions, the policies and the politics, and the decision and policy makers to highlight this culture, just to focus on these scientists as a value human capital. These scientists can contribute significantly to the host country. They can achieve significant research, significant studies. They can teach very well. So this value human capital, we should look after them, take care of them, and develop them to be on the board. So they have such barriers. They have many barriers, many difficulties, many constraints. They just need a hand for the first stage to be there, and then they can go by themselves. So institutions, I'm so happy when I was listening to Sana and Peter about the programs, and I know many institutions and organizations who are working on supporting displaced and scientists. I'm so happy about this, but I just need more collaboration between universities, organizations, research centers, policymakers, politics, and decision makers, just to highlight this culture that these scientists are value human capital. So, and support them, it's not by just, okay, for sure, these scientists, they are seeking safe and secure places for the priority for them seeking safe and secure place. This is first most important for them. But then it's not just to put them in this safe or secure place. They just need facilities to be there. Can you imagine these people who are the scientists who don't have anything else? They have only their brain, they have their knowledge, they have their skills, and they can't work with scientific. They can't work in scientific environments. How can you imagine their mood? How can you imagine their psychology? How can they imagine the life they live? This is the what. If we talk about the pillars of life. For scientists at risk, this is the main pillar to survive or to live. It's to have fund or to have facilities to research, to conduct their research. So I learned one story from one scientist who I know, a displaced refugee scientist, and he told me when he was explaining his challenges to the organization that should facilitate his situation in his new country, they told him that we are just a facilitator for logistic matters, and we are not a therapist. So I will let you imagine what does this mean for this scientist. And this is just a clear call, high call for all organizations, institutions, and policymakers that just to collaborate together to help and support these people. Again, they are in need for safety and security, but at the meanwhile, they are value human capital. They will contribute efficiently and significantly to the host countries, to their host countries. Thank you. So if anyone has any question, please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Saja. Also for some insight into your personal story. We noted you've been in Oxford before Glasgow. And this is very typical of people in your situation, that you don't manage to find a settled position, maybe for several years. And this is part of the project that we are pushing on and encouraging funding organizations, universities, and so on to sort of have a coordinated response to people in your situation. And also the sort of other barriers you mentioned regarding visas and what you can and can't do, the technical assistance versus the sort of career assistance that you might expect, and so on. So you've raised a number of issues here, and especially more difficult, I imagine, for women rather than men in your situation. So thank you for that. I will reiterate, if you have questions for Saja or for any of the others, please put them in the Q&A down below. You'll see it pop up if you move your mouse. But let us move on to Ganya. You have some slides to share, I understand. So please, I hope you can share your screen with us. Thank you, Ganya.
So thank you very much, Bita, and thank you for giving me the chance and the opportunity today to be with you, to just highlight some of the difficulties and the achievement and the challenges that I was and as all of us, we know that the war and conflict in Yemen starting since 2011, the situation was not stable, and then the war and conflict started in 2015. And according to the UN, the current situation in Yemen is the worst humanitarian crisis. So everything has been affected by this war and inside conflict. Everything, the human being in Yemen, infrastructure, environment, agriculture, everything has been destroyed and affected. But I will highlight a little bit about the higher education, what happened to the higher education for academic higher education, administrative employers, and also our students, and what happened to me. So the war and conflict affects on higher education in many things. First of all, we have destruction of educational facilities. Almost 22 universities in Yemen has been destroyed by the war and conflict in Yemen. And that's lead to distributed access to the education. The education has been stopped in Yemen almost 2 years. And now also, if it's again open, the education in Yemen is still in a very difficult situation. We have also a lot of higher education facilities like universities and institutions has been, changed or used as military uses. That's why it was like a very point to get bombed by the war. So what happened? We have almost, what happened to the higher education people, to the academic staff? We have, thousands of higher education students and academic were either killed or wounded. We have enforced disappearance and unfair dismiss of almost 215 academic staff in Sana'a University, including myself. No salary was paid to all of the employer, especially in north of Yemen since 2015 and until today, because they live without salary. Large number of the academic and scholars have left Yemen, including men and women. We have hundreds of men, but women we don't have much. For my knowledge, I think we have between 10 and 20 scientists have left Yemen and they are now in exile. So a lot of difficulties, and challenges that faced all the academic people and people from Yemen, like difficult access to the electricity and water, separated of a lot of diseases, including cholera, and also the food and the poverty, the food insecurity, and many things. All these changes has effect on the academic staff and all the people from Yemen. So maybe I will give some brief introduction or introducing about myself. I got my master and PhD in nutritional science from Malaysia and then back to Yemen in 2011. And I was working from 2011 to 2017 in Sana'a University as assistant and associated professor. And we have opened a small division of nutritional science. I was teaching in the university and I was supervising students also. And I was establishing a small animal house for doing research. I also was quite active in the field beside my scientific teaching and doing research. I was also representing Yemen and Sana'a University, in globally or during, internationally or nationally. So I was a Fulbright scholar in 2014 in US, and also I have been awarded for Al-Safir Award in 2016, and I also has been awarded for Arabic Award in 2015. So that was good for me because I was only the female scientist in the Department of Food Science and Technology in Sana'a University. And beside my work as an academic and researcher in Sana'a University, I was also involved in a few projects in Yemen that lead to develop the careers and skills for women in rural areas. So I was working in a lot of nutritional awareness for men and women in villages and in rural area in Yemen, and also doing some projects in food processing and other things. I really was to leave Yemen was a very losing to Yemen because we don't have much people that in the field of nutrition and food science and like to work in the field. So to leave Yemen is a losing for the country and for the people who really in need for this, for such scientists like me or others. So the war and conflict in Yemen have effects on my academic freedom.